you and I talk a lot, and you know, we hear it from the fans because you're a Hall of Fame voter for baseball.
Yep.
I'm an NBA awards voter for basketball, and I voted on all these postseason awards, all NBA teams and everything. And we constantly tell people that the media is the best group of people to vote on these awards. They're not perfect. We're not perfect.
We're not perfect. Yes. It's not always right, but
they are and some do have biases. But I would say the media is by far the most unbiased group of people to vote on these awards.
We got no skin in the game, Chris. None.
Nope. And players often talk about they want the vote, and
we don't know. We don't
media
play.
don't know what they're talking about, right? And we've pointed out All-Star voting 2017, 120 some odd players didn't vote for LeBron James. 150 some odd didn't vote for Kevin Durant. Lunacy. Ridiculous. And we have another example, and this is a guy that both you and I know and we like. And he's done a fantastic job making a career for himself after a really good basketball career too. But Jalen Rose. Rob, it was a shock this morning when we found out that someone voted for Kyrie Irving, who played 29 games this season. 29 out of 82. Someone voted for him to make third team All-NBA. We were shy. I mean, we talked about on First Things First. Kevin Wiles thought it had to be a mistake. I said the only justification, I said it's hard to make a mistake with the way they do the voting, but I said the only thing I could see, Rob, is that someone just felt like, you know what, Kyrie's one of the best six guards in the league.
Right.
And I don't care how much he played. I'm voting.
He's still better
in that
than,
case, you could you could put Kawhi Leonard on there.
Right.
You put Damian Lillard.
Even though he didn't play he didn't play a minute. Right.
And I was looking for who in the world is
But
this?
you didn't think it was a writer, did you?
I never would have guessed it was Jalen Rose. I'll tell you that. I did think, know what I thought, Rob? I wouldn't have bet on it, but I thought best bet, it probably, I thought was maybe a local beat writer, like a Nets beat writer. You know how sometimes the local guys feel compelled for whatever reason.
You know what?
We
had that. I can't remember who it was, had a chance to be unanimous.
LeBron.
Was that?
And before for MVP. And Gary Washburn, friend of the show, great NBA reporter, he voted for Carmelo.
Yeah, but there was another one too back when I was covering the Nets. And they said that David voted for, it was Rookie of the Year, I think. But that's what they said. They said David voted for Chris Morris. Remember Chris Morris with the Nets?
Right.
He was okay.
For Rookie of the Year?
For Rookie of the Year. Like he got a Rookie of the Year voted, and everybody's like, Chris Morris. And when they said David Steele, the writer, was on the beat. So they thought it was David Steele, but you know who it was? It was Howard David, the broadcaster for the Nets. Howard David.
Well, that happens
See
too,
what I
right.
mean?
Broadcast,
Yes.
Yep.
Where a team broadcaster, Chris, will wind up picking somebody.
They took the vote from a lot of those guys, Rob.
Because they watch those guys every day, right? But they work for the teams.
More homers. But they feel more, they themselves, Rob, you know this, they kind of view themselves more as a part of the team than the writers do. A beat writer, at least one in his right mind, does not view himself as part of the team.
No, we're the enemy.
Are
you kidding?
We're
the enemy.
They might look at that, but you don't. You just like, I'm objective, and then they might view you as the enemy. But the broadcasters, you know this, Rob. They kind of, they're on the flights a lot of times. They're on the bus with the team, and they are homers when you listen to them call the game.
But I agree with you on Jalen. Like, this is surprising.
I was shocked. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, this was like, were you really thinking about this? And I think your explanation, what was probably where he was going. Kyrie's better than these guys, whether he played
no way.
No games. Or 82 games or no games.
Right.
But that's not how the award is voted.
No way.
It's just not.
No way. Because like you said, like I said, you could, if that's your reason, you could legitimately put Kawhi Leonard on there.
Absolutely.
Even though
And
he didn't
say-
play one game. 29 games. Rob, I don't care if he averaged 50 points and 11 assists in 29 games by your own volition or of your own volition, right? No,
Right.
there's no way. But speaking of Kyrie, and this is what we really wanted to get into and what we'll get into with Kristian Winfield, then Winfield wrote a story in the New York Daily News saying that the Nets brain trust, according to a source, is outright against paying Kyrie Irving a long-term contract extension. And Rob, I agree with that. I mean, Kyrie, we all know he's a very good player. He is an exceptionally skilled player. He's your favorite player's favorite player because he's got the handle, he's got the finishing ability, he's got the J. Like, his skills are second to none. But Robbie played 20 games his first year with the Nets. He played 50-ish his second year with the Nets. In large part because he took off some time for January 6th, personal reasons. And it's like today, Rob, in that case, and we're all broken up. I mean, Rob, we've had several tragedies in the last few weeks. We had what happened in Buffalo.
Awful, Chris.
We recently,
and then Texas.
of course, had this massacre. 21 people, 19
kids,
children killed in Texas. So we've all, and then there's more I didn't even mention. But as no matter how badly you feel, no matter how hurt you are, no matter how much you think about your own kids and your own family members being in that situation or being afraid that, at their school or whatever, their place of employment, something could happen. We had to get up and go to work. And if Kyrie can take off for January 6th, why can't he take off for this? Like, that's the type of thing you have to think about if you're going to pay him a long-term deal. And so I'm with the Nets, Rob, on not paying him long-term. If I'm the Nets, I would be trying to reach out to Kyrie, and I don't know why in the world I couldn't get him. I'm his employer. I'm paying your bills. Answer the phone. I mean,
right.
I mean, my gosh, it's just, Rob, sometimes I don't get it. But Kyrie, opt in. Because we're not giving you a long-term. And I'm not going to say it with attitude, but after what we've been through, Kyrie, we just can't. And if the owner should say, put it on me, right? Joe Tsai is just not willing to go there right now. We want you. We believe in you. And we think we can have a great year this year with you, KD, and Ben Simmons leading the way. So let's go out and have that year. And you play as much as you can. Give us the right attitude. And, man, we'll lock you up after we win this chip. So come back. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
No, I don't know what contract he could expect, anybody could expect. I don't think that this is shocking at all. I think this makes common sense. You can't you can't, what's the right word, Chris? Give somebody who hasn't been available and reward them. You can't reward him with some deal. It's just not, no matter how talented he is, I need to get a full season next year and have this guy ball out and give them a chance to come out of the East and a chance at a championship. They got a lot of pieces. Joe Harris will be back next year. Maybe Ben Simmons. Like Chris, they got pieces. They're going to be in the mix if they're healthy. But you need a Kyrie who's going to be there, and being available, and being locked in, and being a good teammate is important, even as much as just having raw talent, which we know he does.
Doubt.
I mean, it just is, because if you're not there, having all that talent doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't.
And Rob, I don't think Kyrie has any leverage. The only teams with cap room are Detroit, San Antonio, Indiana, Portland, and Orlando.
Good luck.
Right. None of them are very good teams at this point. None of them are desirable places you're going to want to go if you're a veteran who has won a championship. And I don't think any of them are going to would even really go after Kyrie. And so where are you going? Everybody knows you want to stay in Brooklyn. You've said it. People in the league knew it before you said it, but you said it after game 4.
Yep.
And you've been wishy-washy on your availability in Brooklyn where you want to be. What in the world would you be like somewhere you don't want to be?
With your partner that you wanted. You know what I mean? Like KD, let's go to Brooklyn. The Knicks were available. There was other places they could have easily gone. It could have been like, nah, let's just go to the Knicks and play at the Garden.
Absolutely.
All right? Let's just do that. No, let's go to Brooklyn. Grew up in Jersey. I was a Nets fan.
Yep.
The Nets are in Brooklyn. They kind of got a different little vibe. Yes, they're not the Knicks. But then again, what have the Knicks won, Chris, in the last 40 years? Zero.
Absolutely.
I get it.
And so I don't think he has leverage. However, this depends on Kevin Durant. That could be great leverage. He don't have leverage, I don't think, basketball-wise. But if Kevin Durant is like you said, that's why Durant is in Brooklyn. If Kyrie had been like, let's go to New York, I firmly believe, Rob, KD would have been in New York.
I agree. It was a package deal. They were going to go together and play together, and that's what it was.
Yep. And so if they don't give him, let's say Kyrie opts out, and they don't give him the long-term deal and are open to letting him walk and maybe go somewhere, sign and trade, whatever. And KD, what would you do if KD, here's how I look at it, Rob. Because obviously, if I want Kevin Durant is still, I don't think he's the best player in the world. I think it's Giannis, but it's arguable. If somebody wants to argue Kevin Durant, I mean, they got an argument, right?
You're not going to say like it's impossible.
Right, exactly. That's not, you're not off your rocker by any stretch. And so I want Kevin Durant. I think he's hungry to win the championship. He might even be hungrier with the success Golden State is having this year without him. But Robbie's locked up for the next 4 years.
Right.
So what if Kevin Durant is like, hey, I came here to play with Kyrie. So if you don't sign him, trade me.
Yeah. I you know what? I hear you, Chris. I just can't see KD. His reputation is on the line. His legacy's on the line. He's got to want Kyrie. We're cool. We're boys. But I can't take waste another year or two. Like you're getting older, right? There's a window that's definitely there. If I'm him, I'm like, dude, I need you. Like what? I can't.
Right.
You can't do this anymore. I want to play with you. I think we complement each other. We could have something good. But I can't do this.
So you wouldn't attach yourself like if he wants to go.
I might have came here with you, but when we all talked about it and you said you were going to get vaccinated, then you backed out. Why am I being loyal to you?
Right. I agree. I don't know if KD would do that, but you are right. That's what you should do.
Right.
And Rob, even
if we're going to be loyal or whatever, and me and you are doing a radio show together and we say we're going to do something, and then I can't count on you, Chris. After a while, I'm going to be like, you know what? I wanted to do the show with you, but,
Absolutely.
I can't count on you.
You're absolutely right. And even, Rob, if KD was like, you know what? Trade me. First of all, if I'm the Nets, I'm like, all right, we got you locked up for the next 4 years. You're not Anthony Davis where you can afford to essentially throw a year away.
Not at your age. Right.
So, one, we want to keep you. Second, worst case scenario, if I trade Kevin Durant, Rob, I think I'm getting back a haul. Now, I get it. He would probably only go to a really good team. So, what are they going to have? Are their draft picks going to be – they're not going to be lottery picks. Are they going to give up – they're not going to give up some of their core if they're trying to win it because KD will be a part of that. But I don't know. I just think I would be able to get a lot for him in some form or fashion, whether it's a 3 or 4 team deal. And I wouldn't just give him away. If I can't trade you, I'm not trading you.
No, I'm not giving away anybody.
Yeah, you can't walk away. Like you said, Rob, at his age, he can't just walk away from a season.
I agree.
So,
Rob Parker, Chris Broussard, coming to you live from the Fox Sports Radio studios. And We're ready to welcome in Kristian Winfield, who is a Nets and NBA reporter for the New York Daily News, a place I once worked for 5 years, one of my favorite places to work, and co-host of the Certified Buckets podcast. Kristian, what's happening? Welcome to the Odd Couple.
Thanks for having me, guys. You know, I always appreciate this platform, so thank you again, man. I'm doing well. Weather's really nice in Brooklyn, man. It's summertime, so you already know what that means. It's time to have a good time before the NBA starts back up next season.
Now, Kristian, you wrote a great article recently about the Nets not being committed to giving Kyrie Irving the long-term extension. You said, I think they're outright against it. Tell us the deal, why they don't want to pay him long-term, and where you think this thing could be headed.
You know, so this goes back maybe even further before Game 4 when Kyrie said, hey, you know, I don't plan on going anywhere. This goes back to last offseason when Sean Marks said, hey, I've got, you know, after Kevin Durant signs that long-term deal through basically 2026, he said he had Kyrie Irving and James Harden signed, sealed, and delivered, and that did not end up happening. And now we're in a situation where it's interesting for both sides what the future looks like, because on one end, you know, Kyrie put himself in this predicament. That's the only way you can call it when you consider he didn't get vaccinated against COVID-19. And even if that was the case, even if that was the only thing, you go back to last season where he missed 2 weeks straight because of what happened at the Capitol, which obviously was an incredible event, and that spoke for itself. But to have 2 weeks off after that just to try to figure out how you feel about it, basically, that kind of started setting the plate for why the Nets feel the way they feel now. And on top of that, you compound the injury history as well. And the injuries are probably why Kyrie doesn't want a short-term deal. If Kyrie gets hurt playing on a one-year deal, now you don't have any stability for the future. If you have a career jeopardizing injury and you're on a one-year deal, now the earning ability for the future is in jeopardy. So on both sides, guys are trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the best way for us to move forward? But the Nets, when you consider the alternative for them, which is not having the cap space to sign a max player to replace Kyrie if he leaves in free agency, that's the worst case right now. If Kyrie walks out, it's
but where's he going?
Yeah, he wants to go to Detroit, Orlando. Where's he going?
Teams that have room are bad teams. They may not even want Kyrie anyway. I wouldn't see why any of those teams would want Kyrie.
Listen, and from my understanding, there's a way where Kyrie can sign with a team, get his contract, and then come December 15th, that team can then trade him elsewhere and get the assets and the young players. You know what I'm saying? So it only takes
is a team going to do that? Because, I mean, you've talked to people around the league. Do you think Kyrie's value is that great? I mean, I think maybe teams are going to give him a couple years. Everybody going to have the same reservations as the Nets.
Yeah, because you can't count on him. That's the scary part.
I think, you know, saying you can't count on him when his entire beginning of this year was really inhibited by a pandemic that hit everybody out of nowhere. And for him to then have to make a personal decision on it, I mean, you can feel how you want about being vaccinated or not. That's someone's personal decision to make with themselves, right? And to do that in a city where you now have a vaccine mandate, if Kyrie played anywhere else, I'm not sure other teams have the reservations that the Nets have. If you're telling me when Kyrie came back, I mean, you hear what other players say about him on a day-to-day basis. This is one of the most skilled players to touch a basketball floor. I think anybody would want him on their team, especially if they're angling for a championship.
Come on, man. Boston's better without him. Real talk. And I love Kyrie's game, but come on.
And not only that,
and
wait a minute, but you just talked about the vaccine, Chris. The year before, he just took time off. Remember?
That was the thing, Kristian, before that.
I mean, so there's other scenarios. It's not just the vaccine. And I don't know, Wiggins decided to go ahead, and so did who else in Washington?
Bradley Beal.
And how many people was it in the NBA who wasn't vaccinated? And I'm not. It is his own personal decision. But you got to admit that it damaged the Nets and their season.
Oh no, 100%. I no one is taking that out of that. The decision there just compounded all the issues that led to a first round sweep. I mean, you talked about James Harden
that's all.
Getting overloaded. His decision not to get vaccinated cost the Nets this season. No one is questioning that. It's just a matter of if you're assuming now that you have him healthy and there's no vaccine mandate in place and he's able to play, considering the alternative, and then you're looking around the league, and a lot of teams are also seeing that he's available. The availability part was the biggest thing, and that was just because of a vaccination mandate in New York City. That's not the case elsewhere. Had Kyrie been on another team, we're having a completely different discussion right now because he's playing all these games. At least we think he's playing all these games. We don't know if there's another reason why he ends up missing.
Well, that's the
games.
thing. I mean, we've had tragedies over the last few weeks that maybe Kyrie would want to say, but Kevin Durant, where do you think he would be? Because that would be Kyrie's greatest leverage, obviously, if Durant is like, look, if y'all let Kyrie go, you might as well trade me. Like, I know you may not know for sure, but what's your gut on where KD will be as far as Kyrie?
You know, that's tough because the reality of the situation is if you don't have Kyrie, and if that worst-case scenario that we just played out, if you lose Kyrie for nothing, if that's what happens, I don't see a way for the Nets to put the championship pieces around Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons, if that's what you're building around. If that's the core, and we're talking about Ben Simmons coming off of a back surgery, not having played an entire year, right, having to go through what it takes to get him back on the floor, wherever he is. We don't know what percentage in terms of where his physical capacity to play is right now and where he'll be at the start of the season. You're talking about putting pieces around that to win a championship, and we just saw what happened with the Celtics and how the Celtics had to play the Bucks, and you've got the Heat, you've got all these teams. Even the Sixers were looking okay, you know, compared to what the Nets would have. That's the tough part. So going into year 16, is that what Kevin Durant wants? Does he want to try to build something where there might not be a light at the end of the tunnel, or does he go somewhere else? I don't know. I don't know where his mind's at. He's not talking to me. I don't know. But that's what's going through his head right now. I would assume is, okay, well, if we don't have Kyrie, what does that mean for me if we can't put those pieces around me to win a championship here?
Right. The good thing for the Nets is that obviously he signed that long-term deal. So they do have him locked up. You trade him, you're going to get a haul for him. And also, I don't think he can pull like an Anthony Davis, you know, or even a Ben Simmons, you know what I mean? Because at his age, I don't think he can afford to just give up a year, you know? So that's some good news for the Nets.
It's good news, but it could get really interesting depending on how these contract negotiations go with Kyrie. My gut tells me this thing gets resolved. You know, I don't think that it ends up being a one-year deal. I think that's just a little. I don't think that's feasible. But I don't think it ends up being that full 5 years. We're talking about 5 years, $245 million. I think that's off the table. You know, so I think that they meet somewhere in the middle, maybe with some options at the end. But if we're talking about not having Kyrie and not having an adequate replacement for him either, I don't know. That's not a good sell for delivering championships in Brooklyn. I don't think it happens.
Even Nike and Kyrie's sneaker did well for them, pulled the plug. They just said, okay, like we got to move on. Well, I don't know.
And you're right, he had the best-selling shoe of the current player.
It was. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah, it says a lot, though. It says a lot. All right.
Kristian, great stuff,
we appreciate
man.
you.
Keep up the great work, brother.
Appreciate you guys for having me anytime.